those who cannot be here, because we do have some folks out. Muy buenos días. Very good morning to everybody. Buenos días a todos. ¿Cómo están ustedes? ¿Están bien o más o menos?
Bien.
Bien. Aquí, bien. La semana pasada, last week, más o menos. Yeah, that was pre-tax visit. Go! Don't you hate taking care of those yearly things? I hate it. Lo odio. I hate it. Today, we're going to, I'm going to open up to see if you have any questions about the issue of directions. And that is kind of a touchy subject because there are just so many ways you can express understanding directions, but just kind of as a, a check at this point in time. We're going to fold in some of the idea of interrogatives, interrogative words, and what purpose they're going to serve. And then we're going to start to fold those in poco a poco, this session, next session, session after that. I want to devote our main class today to how to use verbs to tell who's doing something, to express that idea, because it is more complicated in Spanish. It is called verb conjugation, and it has nothing to do with conjugal visits in prison. It's got nothing to do with any of that stuff. But verb conjugation is just a fancy grammar term, like we have the laughing term we use for legalese. He speaks in legalese. Well, grammarese, yeah. Verb conjugation just means the verb gets a certain kind of a form. You have to change something with the way it is spelled to make it fit into a sentence so that it can tell the story of who's doing an action. That's what a verb conjugation is. Okay, so we're going to devote a lot of time to that. And we're going to isolate it mostly to AR verbs. We might wind up with time to introduce ER verbs as well. But we're going to focus more on AR verbs today. And, if I wind up with extra time, I'll just consider it a gift, and then we'll go with that. Bien. Vamos a ver. Let's take a quick look at this old page I showed you yesterday. I had given you a set of helpful vocabulary, and it is kind of problematic with getting directions. And remember, you're not going to give anybody directions how to get someplace. You're going to be the one that's asking, how do I get to? But ¿Cómo llego a? ¿Cómo llego a is that magic question which uses an interrogative, the interrogative how, ¿cómo? ¿Cómo llego a? And buried in that is an interrogative, part of our lesson today. And buried after that word como is llego, a conjugated verb. And llego means literally I arrive. Well, we phrase it differently. We say, how do I get to? Or maybe how do I go to? Or how do I find? But como llego a is the question natives will expect you to ask if you're asking for directions, and always go armed with a map, a walking map, right? So there are many ways people might respond. We're going to take a look at one other little word that is going to help, but this was our list of vocabulary. Do you have any big questions about any of these? Or no? No? Okay. I'm going to show you one segment, not even the whole video. One segment, of a video. And this video is super helpful because it shows you an extra verb that can be used instead of estar. When we ask, where is something? ¿Dónde está? Right? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? Might be as, ¿dónde está un supermercado? Right? right? ¿Dónde está el hospital? Hopefully you don't have to ask for the hospital. ¿Dónde está el Hotel Marriott? Where's the Marriott Hotel, right? Usually está. ¿Dónde? Another interrogative word. Where? ¿Dónde? Where? Often paired up with está. You might ask ¿dónde hay? Where is there? If you need a pharmacy, but you don't really care which one. But if you care about the Marriott Hotel, ¿dónde está? And we're used to using está, but there is another verb that people may use to tell you where stuff is located. So just that you know this is out there. This won't take long. This is a verb called quedar. I want you to look up in the upper left-hand corner, and I'll send you the link to get to this video, because actually quedar is a super useful verb and it is a regular verb. So you'll be able to conjugate it perfectly after today's lessons, but it is used in many, many, many different contexts. And one use, uso número tres, and this one, she listed it as number 3. One way that quedar is used is as a substitute for estar, to talk about location. So you see the great big title on the screen. We're only going to play maybe a minute of this video. It says, uso número 3, hablar de la ubicación de un lugar, talking about the location of a place. So when you ask ¿dónde está? Where is? ¿Dónde está el Hotel Marriott? ¿Dónde está el Parque Regional? Where's the regional park? You may get somebody answering you with a verb that's not estar. So we're going to listen to this tiny snippet for that purpose so that you can hear an example.
Bueno, también podemos usar quedar cuando queremos hablar de la ubicación de un lugar.
We can use quedar instead of estar to talk about a location of a place. Lugar means place.
Disculpe, señora.
Oh, here's an example of how you get somebody's attention. Disculpe, señora. Disculpe. Excuse me. Because that's how you start off your question for asking for a location.
Sí.
Disculpe.
¿Dónde queda esta dirección?
Instead of ¿dónde está? You can also ask, ¿dónde queda? ¿Dónde queda? And that verb is quedar. But when you ask where is, like ¿dónde está? Ends in an a. ¿Dónde queda? Ends in an a. ¿Dónde queda esta dirección? Where is this address? Sometimes you get an address and you're not quite sure how to get there. ¿Dónde queda esta dirección? Dirección looks like direction. It can mean direction, but it also is used for address. Okay, the joke on his little paper, it says a place very far away, un lugar muy lejos. It is a joke only for people who know Spanish. And you're going to hear what she's saying here, or you're going to see what she's saying as she says it.
Uy, no, eso queda muy lejos.
Eso queda muy lejos. Eso queda muy lejos. That's really very far off. It's very far away. You could say, eso está muy lejos. Es posible. Eso está muy lejos. Correcto, correcto. Pero también also, eso queda muy lejos. Igual, means the same thing. People may feel like using that verb instead of está.
Muchas personas tienen que coger un bus porque queda muy lejos, queda fuera de la ciudad.
Queda fuera de la ciudad. It is outside the city, see? And she said many people take a bus so far. Yeah, eso es.
Una
Okay.
aclaración. En Colombia decimos coger un bus y coger un taxi. No es nada raro. En otros países es mejor no decir eso. En otros países es mejor decir tomar un bus, porque coger tiene un
Oh, yeah.
significado sexual.
Okay.
Entonces,
See, we'll talk about that very, very briefly because it is helpful, but yeah. Sometimes people may tell you to catch a bus to get somewhere. And this is a tidbit, a vocabulary tidbit, but not something you need to memorize. And I'm going to put it up on share screen just very briefly. If you are a sensitive type person, pardon the bad language here. If somebody says mejor, which means better, like they don't want you to walk, you remember the 3 questions with 7 words. Okay. ¿Cuántos minutos andando? How many minutes walking? But, sometimes people will ask you, ¿tienes un carro? Do you have a car? They want to know if you're driving. Are they, because maybe it's something pretty far off. Somebody may say mejor tomar, which means to take. Mejor tomar un autobús, meaning they think you shouldn't try to hoof it because it's too far. Mejor tomar un autobús. Mejor tomar un autobús. Better take a bus, okay? The focus here is on a verb tomar. Better to take. Tomar means to take. And it can also be used, oddly, to say to eat something or to drink. It's one of those verbs that gets like a lot of different uses. Yeah. She mentioned too, because she is, ella es colombiana. Ella es colombiana. She is Colombian. In Colombia or in Spain, in those 2 places, Colombia y España, people will say, mejor coger un autobús, or mejor coger el metro, better to take the subway, right? Be careful with that verb coger, because coger does mean to take, but it also is the great big F-bomb. In Mexico, definitely never use this verb at all, ever. It is the big F-bomb. Spaniards and Colombians, if they are visiting Mexico, often will use, cojo un autobús. And it means I am effing the bus. And people get kind of like, their eyes will go big on you, like, wow, what kind of dirty potty mouth are you? Okay. So that verb, ditch it. The verb you want to use for taking a mode of transportation is this, tomar, to take. And this one, while it is great if you're in Barcelona, Madrid, any place in Spain, it's great in many parts of Colombia, but yeah, elsewhere, it's the big F-bomb. So avoid that word. Okay.
Trying to forget.
It's one of those, helpful things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
A ver. Bueno. Okay, so I'll send you little tidbits so you can watch the rest of that if you're interested. It's a little more advanced video, but it may be helpful in some ways. Let's take a little bit of a deep dive into AR verbs. Ooh, I'm going to go back to our little share screen for a minute so that you can see what I am talking about with verbs. Verbs. Verbs are action words, yeah? Verbs tell us what is happening. So, nouns are people or places or things. Verbs are actions. And a verb in its most basic form, we call an infinitive. An infinitive has nothing to do with a mathematical term of going on, or a scientific term going on into infinity forever and ever. An infinitive in grammar terms, again, it's grammar ease. An infinitive is a verb in its most basic form, meaning it doesn't tell you anything about when that action is happening or who's doing it. It only tells you what the action is, okay? Our infinitives in English, our infinitives always start with the word to. They just always start with to, okay? So to eat, to talk, to drink, to sing, to dance, to calculate, to pay, to buy, to prepare like your food. Okay. Thousands of these, because there are thousands of actions you might be talking about, right? And in English, they all start with the idea of to. But when we plug that English idea into a sentence, nobody ever says, I to go to store. We to prepare a meal now. Somebody said that in English, be like, whoa. We to prepare a meal. Would you know what they meant? Yes, but would it sound like very disjointed and bizarre and like, yikes, this poor person needs to learn how to use this? Of course, you'd be, it slows down your ability to communicate, right? But in English, we are really limited in what happens, and we're only going to talk about present tense here. So let's start by saying, if you want to talk about what's happening now, or actually maybe what might happen in the very near future, what I'm going to do in the next couple of hours, we can use present tense. Okay. Oh, I'm buying some groceries could mean I'm doing it right now, or I'm buying some groceries might mean I'm doing it in the next couple of hours, right? Yeah, we can say that. So this is going to be present tense. And so that means it's going on right now. And it could mean very near future. Okay. But present tense in English means that somebody, okay, let's take drink as an example. It might be English present tense might be I am drinking. It might be I drink, as in I usually do this. Yeah. We use present tense to talk about what we usually do. I drink orange juice in the morning means, I drink coffee twice, 2 cups every day. It talks about my habit. So it might be what's really happening right now. I am drinking. It might be my habit. I drink coffee every morning. It might be, I'm gonna going to, because that's what we really often say, right? I'm gonna have, or I'm gonna drink, a cup of coffee. Okay, so all of those ideas in English, let me shorten that. All of those ideas, I am drinking, I drink, I'm going to drink, all of those can be conveyed with what we call present tense, right? So what we want to make sure you understand is that we're not talking about what happened yesterday or 2 hours ago in the past, but now-ish or soon-ish, okay? But in English, that also gets, you can't say I am drinking, but basically, I drink, you drink, we drink, they drink, she drinks. Oh, we got a little change there. He drinks. You can't say she drink coffee every morning. People are like, huh? Yeah, but we only have 2 forms. If you don't count the I am drinking part, right? Drink, drinks. Yay, pretty easy. S. Yeah, that's easy. But Spanish is going to take multiple verb forms, right? basically what's going to happen is you're going to have one verb that means yo is doing the action, I. You're going to have one separate verb that means nosotros, we are doing the action. You're going to have one separate verb that means tú, you, a buddy, does the action. There's going to be a separate verb that means you guys, buddies, does the action. This one, fortunately, I will show you, but we will not use it because this is not used ever in Latin America. Okay, so nowhere in Mexico, nowhere in Central America and South America do they use vosotros and its separate verb conjugations. In fact, kids from Mexico who maybe do a semester abroad, say in Barcelona in Spain, really are annoyed that they have to start understanding communicating and people are talking to them using vosotros. Because if your buddies meet you at the coffee shop in the morning before classes, they're going to say, hey, you guys, ay, hola, ¿cómo estáis? How you doing? And they're not going to say, ¿cómo están ustedes? They're going to say, ¿cómo estáis? How are you guys? And people in Latin America don't like using vosotros. They mentally know what it is, but they have to struggle with, shoot, what's the verb form I use? Because they don't use it. Okay. And we're going to get yet another verb form if we want to say that él or ella or usted is doing an action. Okay. Although these three are going to hang together. So if you mean that él, he, one person, a guy is doing the action, or ella, she, one gal is doing the action. The key is one human being. Or we roll usted into that category, right? If one person is doing the action, or if it's the formal you, it's going to get a separate verb form. So I'm going to do a little space in between all these, okay? And then if I want to say that they are doing the action, you remember we've got a separate feminine they verb form, which means it's an all female group. Or if we want to say ustedes, you guys are doing something, you guys plural, all of you, it will get a separate verb form. So uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis. Actually, there are hay seis formas de cada verbo. Each separate verb, instead of drink, drinks, will get technically 6 different forms. Lucky you, you only need to know 5. Okay. So the reason we have verb conjugations is to tell presente what the action is and when it is happening. In this case, it's presente right now, because there will be different verb forms for past tense. They will be different. And just like we have drink and drank. Oh yeah. And how weird is drank? Okay. For past, the verb conjugation tells when it is happening, what the basic action is. And you know what the basic action is from the infinitive itself, this part. But it also tells you if it is first person, yo, doing the action. If it is first person plural, we, I'm in the group doing the action. If it is tú, to a friend or somebody you're on, equal friendly basis with. If it is one human being alone doing that action, third person singular is what that's called. Or if it is a group of people doing the action, or ustedes, you guys, plural.
Good.
So
Being
first
nice.
person singular, first person plural, second person, which is what we call tú, you, and then third person singular. All these three will use one verb. Third person plural. All these three subjects or human being groups will use those verbs. And that is the basics. Now, English speakers don't like this because it's annoying. And the question becomes, and this is a question that millions of people hate. If you think this is a pain in the behind, For English speakers, yes, it is. Okay, because we're not used to making that many verb forms. And so the question becomes, asked a million times, do I really need to know all those verb conjugations? Do I need to know how to change all that? Can't I just know what the infinitive is and like stick a person's name with the verb, and that's good to go, good enough? And Spanish speakers will sadly try to not roll their eyes at you, and they'll say, yes, you really need to learn verb conjugations. Can't I just use the infinitive by itself? Wouldn't that be so much simpler? Well, it would be simpler, but it does not work that way, sadly. So here we go. Our first job is to get familiar with what various infinitives mean. Oops, I need to go the other direction here. Okay, we're going to take a look at AR infinitives. English infinitives all start with the word to, but in Spanish, all infinitives will not get the word to in the front as a separate word. It'll be the last two letters of the infinitive will either fall into the category of AR at the end of the verb. That means it's an AR infinitive, or ER infinitives, or IR infinitives. And that means that the base form that doesn't yet tell you who's doing something, it just tells you what the action is in a very vague way. Spanish infinitives all either end in AR or end in ER or end in IR. That's it. Those are the three categories that they have. And you need to know what the infinitive means first. So that is really a vocabulary issue, right? And here we're giving you, actually, you can give the English because you see it. Hablar. Hablar, and I'm going to send you off with a video this week to watch about AR infinitives in particular, probably an ER one as well. We're going to focus on AR for now. Hablar means to speak or to talk. Hablar, but hablar by itself doesn't tell you who is doing the speaking. It just tells you what the action is. Hablar. And notice we don't, no se pronuncia la H. You don't pronounce the H. Hablar. Hablar. I'd like everybody trying to repeat after me. Hablar.
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 Blah.
Okay. Hablar. And
Hablar.
I can't just say yo hablar, because it's like saying I to talk. So that will sound real funny and weird to somebody. Yo hablar. Okay. In a very lame, limpy, sort of limping along kind of fashion, it will get your idea across. So in a worst case scenario where your mind is, you're stressed and your mind is just so blown, you can't think, okay, yo hablar, they'll know in the ballpark what you mean, but it'll sound weird. Okay.
Blah.
To travel, viajar.
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 Y la J,
Viajar.
the J is a N H. Viajar. Viajar.
Viajar.
We have the word voyage, which kind of comes from the same Latin thingy as viajar. Okay.
Viajar.
We've got two verbs, and regionally, it kind of depends on what country or what region of the country you're in. Both these, everybody knows these two verbs in Spanish if they're a native speaker, and they both mean to walk. Sometimes one might be more common in another country than another. No big deal. Okay. Caminar.
Caminar.
Andar. Andar. Caminar, to walk. Also, andar, to walk. Okay.
Andar.
Caminar, andar.
Yes.
Bien.
Andar.
If you're old enough to remember that old pickup truck. I think it was a Chevy. El Camino. El Camino. El Camino as a noun. El Camino means a road. Oh, because you walk down a road. Yeah. Caminar. Es la acción. That's the action. Okay. Escuchar. Here is a longer verb. And it means to listen to, and that end to is built into the idea of the verb. So, bueno, repitan, por favor. Escuchar.
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 And I want you to kind of
Escuchar.
notice when we say each of these infinitives as the infinitive, we punch the ending syllable a little bit more. That's the way these verbs work. Okay. They end in a consonant that is not N or S. So we're going to punch that last syllable. That's what happens. To buy. Comprar.
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 Comprar. To buy. Okay.
Comprar.
Now we've got something you saw last week in the como llego a, right? Here's the infinitive that como llego comes from. Llegar.
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 To arrive.
Llegar.
Or we might say
Llegar.
get to
Llegar.
a place.
Llegar.
Okay. Here's a cognate. It looks like an English word and it means what you think. Usar.
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 To use. Wow. Really general purpose, right? Usar. Usar.
Us-
Now we've got another one. Ooh, to dance. Bailar.
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 And the legions of 15-year-olds I had for years and years. Bailar. No. Baila. We pronounce every one of those. AI is not like pale, rail, tail in English, right? We have to pronounce every sound. So it's bailar.
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 Bailar. Next, we've got a verb that means not comprar, but kind of the mate, the paired word with comprar, to buy. Pagar.
To pay.
Pagar. To pay. Pagar.
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 You're giving out money.
Pagar.
Pagar. And by the way, these are all going to be what we call the category of regular verbs. And these are verbs that are highly used in your book, most of them. And they are ones that are deemed like, they're kind of survival mode verbs. Now we've got a verb that means to help. Ayudar.
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 Ayudar. To help.
Ayudar.
My husband is a rock climber, so I love this picture because esto hoy soy yo. This is me on this end. Yes, mi esposa. There's my hubby up there helping me up. Okay. Bueno. Here is a cognate. It looks kind of and sounds kind of like in English, and it means what you think. Estudiar.
Estudiar.
Estudiar. Estudiar. To study. Okay. Here is, if I'm turning my pockets inside out, it means I haven't got it. And if here's another cognate. Well, it is a cognate because something is a necessity if you need it. Yeah. Need is necesitar.
Necesitar.
Yeah.
Necesitar.
Necesitar. With these verbs that are longer, if you have a hard time pronouncing them, break it into syllables. Necesitar. Yeah, perfectly okay to do that. Necesitar, to need. Necesitar. Now, there are many verbs that are used to indicate to need something that are not necesitar, but this is the one that people will recognize because it's closest to the English. Okay, to work, trabajar,
Trabajar.
Trabajar.
trabajar,
Trabajar.
trabajar, to work.
Trabajar.
Okay, and I'm going to put in parentheses, ooh, ooh, not for machines. If you want to say a machine works, like the subway isn't working, or my computer is working now, thanks, guys. We don't use trabajar for that kind of work.
Okay.
It is not for machines. It is for human beings or animals doing work. Okay. An actual living being doing work. Okay. Y esperar. 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 To wait for.
Esperar.
Y esperar.
Esperar. To wait for.
Es-
It also means, oh, it also means to hope, by the way. Esperar has more than one definition. Esperar. Okay. A ver. Ay, a ver. Ba, 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 ba. Okay. Well, I can't take that off the big thing there. All right. So here is what is going to happen. I'm going to, just as a listening exercise, I'm going to look at the number of people. No, you know what? We're not going to do the exercise. We're going to go to this first. Perdón, excuse me. Bear with me. Okay.
Mhm.
Here is the
Mhm.
dreaded chart.
Mhm.
If I want to actually use these verbs, what I need to do first is, if it's an AR verb, an AR verb is the largest category of the three, AR, ER, IR. It is the largest of all the infinitives in the Spanish language. AR verbs probably wind up being 60 or 70% of all the verbs in the language. So it's big.
Mhm.
So we always introduce that first, because you are very likely to encounter a lot of AR verbs. This is for AR verbs that are regular. Notice estar, to be. Estoy en la clase de Zoom. I'm in the Zoom class, right? Because I'm talking about my location. Estoy en la clase de Zoom. Estar is an AR verb, but it is what we call an irregular because it does not follow this nice, neat,
Mhm.
predictable pattern. Okay. We use these charts because it's a mental way of organizing which ending works for the human being doing the action. The first thing we need to know when we use a verb like necesitar, usar, trabajar, hablar, is that if I need to talk about who is doing something, I need to change that AR infinitive in some way into a what we call the conjugated form. And in order to do that, the first thing I have to do before anything else is the AR verb I get rid of, I take off the AR. I have to take off the AR. The AR has to go away first. We eliminate it. And the ending I will use to say, yo, I am doing an action is oh. Oh. So hablar, I take off the AR from hablar, it becomes hablo. Okay.
Mhm.
For tú, to say that you are doing an action. Ooh, and I want you to notice, because this will lead you to have to memorize less. If it's an AR verb, it's going to get a lot of sounds in many of these conjugations. That sound is going to be the dominant, predominant, frequently used vowel sound. I take off the AR. I keep that sound because it's an AR verb, but I tag an S on the end. And that S doesn't mean plural because it's a verb. That S at the end means tú. I'm talking to you, bud. And we're on an equal social level. We know each other by our first name. So hablar, we take off the AR, becomes hablas. hablas, with an S at the end, hablas, okay? To say that one human being is doing that action. Él, it just represents any guy. Ella, she represents any gal. Or usted, the formal you. They fall into the same category. They use the same verb. Él and ella and usted are not the same human being, but they're all single human beings. They're not, and so they're going to use what we call the third person singular verb form. It's just that naked a vowel hanging out at the end. We take off the AR, we just use the a ending. Habla, habla, speaks, okay?
Habla.
For nosotros, if we are doing the action, meaning I have people with me. Yo, I'm not alone. Nosotros, right? And mi esposo y yo, my husband and I, mis
Okay.
hijos y yo, my
In the
kids
morning.
and I. Anytime I add somebody to myself, it becomes the idea of nosotros, we. I take off the AR and I get the longest kind of ending, an amos. Mos always is going to indicate a we doing it, but because they're AR verbs, it gets an amos. Okay, yeah. Vosotros gets ice, but that's only in Spain. So we're going to kind of gloss over. You're going to see what it is, but we're not going to actively practice it. And to say that they are doing something, or you guys, a bunch of you are doing something. We keep that sound in the conjugation, but instead of an S at the end, instead of a mos at the end, we have this sound n, an N at the end. An, hablan.
Hablan.
Okay. So I'm going to send you this. Don't feel you got to copy things willy-nilly and write till your hand gets sore, because you're going to get this exact file. These are, if a verb is a regular AR verb, it will use one of these conjugations to tell who is doing an activity. Okay. And because the verb in Spanish tells the whole story, it tells you what the action is, it tells you when it's happening, and it tells you who's doing it. It is very common to never hear people saying the words yo or nosotros or tú, to leave it out of the sentence entirely. We don't do that in English. We have to say, I speak French and Spanish. We can't just say to somebody, speak French and Spanish. In English, you're like, well, who?
Is it okay to leave it in?
Is it okay to leave it in? Buena pregunta. Sí, it is okay to leave it in. But people may include it because they want to be dramatic or emphatic, or they want to, they're kind of, I'm driving my point, you know. Oh, like, you know, a mom is being sarcastic with her kid and does not like getting back talk from her kid. No hablas tú. No hablas tú. Don't you talk. And she's being emphatic. So she punches the tú in. Okay. Yeah. So yes, it's okay to include it. And in your practice, you're going to see it included, because with single sentence examples, you need a context. Yeah. In the course of a conversation, people are following a train of thought to its logical conclusion. So they know what's going on. But a sentence taken out of the context of a conversation, you need that yo, you need that word tú, you need that word nosotros as a prompt, so you know which word to use. Okay, so you're going to see it more often, but know that people frequently, and even honestly, even in this little one down here, even though that ending can mean any one human being, in the context of a sentence, it may be obvious from the flow of what you're talking about. So people will even drop an el or an ea or even an usted. They may not say it at all. I mean, just know people will drop subject pronouns like I, you, notoriously drop them. Hither and yon. It is a common practice. So you have to be prepared that it will happen. Okay. Yeah. Now, the reason people don't like that is, of course, now I got to know 5 different things. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. No 15-year-old I ever taught said, I love this. None of them do. I don't mind it because I'm used to it, but that's, you know, after many years. Okay. So let's go back to this real quickly. Un momentito, a quick moment. And then you're going to do some practice after we do some examples. The nice thing is, and I'm going to point this out right now to get it out of the way. Yo as a subject, no matter what the verb is, always gets this O ending. Yes. And notice this O does not mean masculine. It's not, yeah, because O on a verb does not mean masculine. O on a verb means, O means egocentric, egocentric. Yo. I'm doing it. Yeah. So no matter what the verb is, when you hear an O at the end like that, ooh, it's an I'm doing it verb. Yay. How nice. But remember, this mos is always going to be a we. This n is always going to be a they. This s at the end always means somebody's talking to you. Yeah. And if you kind of get in that, you know, mode, it will eventually start to come to you. But you're going to need to hear lots of examples. I am going to conjugate each verb according to who I see in these photos. So you're going to see how it is actually used in practice. I would say para hablar aquí, and I'm going to highlight each little picture as I go. La muchacha y el muchacho hablan español. Ellos hablan español.
Ellos hablan. Sí.
Okay.
Eso es. I could not look at that picture and say, well, ooh, if I only looked at him pointing at her, he might be saying hablas, right? But if I look at them both, hablan español.
Hablan.
Bien. La mujer bonita, the pretty woman, la mujer bonita viaja
Yeah.
a Roma. Viaja a Roma.
Roma.
Viaja a Roma.
To Rome.
Viaja con su...
Viaja.
Viaja con su cámara, viaja con su bolsa, viaja con su maleta, her suitcase, viaja con su equipaje. She travels with her luggage. Ella viaja con su equipaje. She travels with equipaje, luggage.
Equipaje.
Equipaje. Okay.
Equipaje.
Las dos amigas caminan al parque. Caminan al parque. O las dos mujeres andan en el parque. Maybe they're walking to the park, maybe they're walking in the park. ¿Sí? Andan, caminan. Bien. La joven, the young lady, la joven escucha su música favorita. La joven escucha. And the doesn't mean feminine because no. Means it's comes from an AR verb. When you hear an at the end of an action word, it means it's an AR verb. Ella escucha su música favorita. Ella escucha con audífonos. Bien. La mujer compra champú. Compra champú en la farmacia. Bien. Muchos hombres Muchos hombres llegan al aeropuerto. Muchos hombres llegan al aeropuerto. Bien. La empleada, the employee, la empleada usa su computadora. Ella usa una computadora muy vieja, a really old computer. No es una computadora moderna, no. Ella usa una computadora vieja, old.
Yeah.
Okay. Los dos, the two of them, los dos bailan. Bailan el tango. Bailan el tango. Bailan. Bien.
Tango.
Okay.
Tango. Yeah.
I am going to inject myself into the next one. I'm going to say I'm paying with cash. I'm going to make this yo.
Yo.
Pago
One
con
is-
efectivo. Pago con, meaning with. Pago con efectivo.
effective.
Vale.
Pago con efectivo. No pago con tarjeta de crédito.
Ah,
I'm not paying with a card.
carreta.
Bien?
Bien.
Okay. Bien. I'm going to make this mi esposo, my husband. And I'm going to say he's helping me. You're going to hear the little me. And the me in the sentence will mean to me. Mi esposo, that tells who's doing it. My husband. Mi esposo me ayuda. Me ayuda. Me means to me. Mi esposo me ayuda. He helps
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
But I'm not doing the helping because I'm hanging off the end of this rope. So, okay. So I can't say ayudo because I'm not doing the helping because I'm this little guy down here and he's this little guy up here. So mi esposo ayuda. See, he helps. Me ayuda. He helps me. Okay. Bien. Me ayuda. Okay. La muchacha estudia. Estudia con muchos libros, with lots of books. Ella estudia con muchos libros. I want you to notice something weird about this verb estudiar. When I get rid of the AR, it's going to retain that little I, that little I vowel. We don't get rid of that. That's got to hang at the end there when I estudio. That E sound has to be kept. We only get rid of the AR at the end and that I stays behind. Ella estudia. Okay. El chico necesita dinero. El chico necesita dinero. The boy needs
Money.
money.
Necesito.
Necesita.
Necesita.
Necesita. If you say necesito, it means
I.
I am the one who needs. Yeah.
Hmm.
He does not get an O at the end, even though he's a guy. That O is an ending for nouns and things that describe nouns. O as an ending on a verb means I'm doing it. So I can't think about him and say, oh, masculine. No, I say verb. Doesn't notice verbs don't have masculine and feminine.
Okay.
They talk about who's doing it, but they don't have anything to do with masculine and feminine. Okay. So él necesita, he needs. Los cuatro empleados, workers, los cuatro empleados trabajan. Trabajan en la oficina. Trabajan. Okay. They work. Okay. Y 1, 2, 3, 4. Muchas personas esperan en la oficina. Muchas personas esperan en la oficina. Esperan. They are waiting. Esperan en la oficina. Bien.
Espera.
Esperan. Ok.
Okay.
Vale. Bien.
Mhm.
Okay. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any questions so far? Because pretty soon you're going to go out and practice this. And I'm only going to have you practice probably on six, well, maybe 6 to 8. Depends on how many fit on the screen. And I'll have you practice in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, yeah. I think we've got enough people to put everybody with a partner. But I'm going to make sure you got directions first. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any question about that? Or no? No? Okay. If you think this is hard, please be advised. Yes, it is. You are normal. Don't think, oh my God, I'm deficient. I'm a moron. No, 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 no. Es difícil. This is hard. It is hard for an English speaker, especially if they've had no experience with another language. So if you've learned another language like German or French or something like that, you might kind of say, yeah, you know, I'm just getting used to what that idea is, which endings are which. But if you've never had any experience with it, it's hard. So if you think this is going to be like, wow, if you can, congratulations, let's nominate you for Mensa. But now, so what I'm telling you guys is this takes practice. Yes, if you perceive it as difficult, you are a normal person. Congratulations. And it will take a lot of practice to get better at it. It just does. It just does. Okay. Bien. I am going to take, before we go off and do our little individual practice, I'm going to take one little working example. I'm going to take escuchar. Escuchar. Okay. And we're going to use it together just a little bit. First thing I got to do, if I want to actually use this verb to say somebody's doing something, I have to get rid of what?
AR.
The AR at the end. So you cannot leave it as escuchar. You have to get rid of that AR first.
Escuchas.
If I want to say, hey, you're listening to jazz, I know that's an AR verb. So what will I do with that? It'll become
Escuchar.
escuchas. Oy, my fingers are not. Escuchas. Escuchas. But notice you're going to hear lots of things. You're going to hear lots of sounds near the end because it's an AR verb. Escuchas. And that means you are listening. Ooh, listening. Man, I clearly have not had enough caffeine today. Escuchas, you are listening, or you listen, or you do listen. Yeah, that's what it means. Okay. What if I want to say I'm doing it? It becomes what?
Escucho.
Escucho. I am listening. Escucho jazz. We're listening to rock.
Escuchamos.
Escuchamos rock. That is what they say. Okay. Escuchamos rock. What if I want to say to somebody I am on a first name basis with, or no, I'm not on a first name basis with. I want to say, usted, you listen to. Oh, are you listening to that?
Escuchas.
Escucha. It's going to be that naked vowel hanging off the end. Escucha. Okay. What if I want to say los hombres, the men are listening to?
Escuchen.
Escuchan. Okay.
Escuch.
Bien. Okay. That's the basic idea.
Wow.
Escuchamos, we are listening. Escucha, You, not a buddy, are listening to, respectful you, right? Escuchan, they're listening to. Those are the basics. Okay. Bien. What I'm going to send you out to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to have you do about 6 or 7 of these. See if you can do them in a group. And I'm going to show you how it's going to go. You're going to see this screen on your screen. After everybody hits the join button, I'll be able to send this exact screen to the 2 of you as you are practicing. Okay. It'll magically appear. Here's what you're going to do. What you're going to do is the yellow stuff, but I want you to take turns with one partner. Okay. So we're going to look at the example on yellow first. Conjugate the verb according to who does the action. And then I want you to tell what it means in English. So you're going to see hablar and tú. Tú is going to be the hypothetical. This is what I want to change the verb for. And so you need to provide what's in yellow. Hablas. Hablas. And then I want you to say, ooh, what does that mean? It means you speak, and you don't have to do all 3 of these, but you speak, you're speaking. That's it, right? So let's take the do speak out for now, because we don't really have to have that. Okay. Bien. So you're going to give what the conjugation is for that human being doing it, and you're going to tell what it means in English. Bien. So if I do hablas, and if Karen were my partner, she's going to take the next one, usar, and give it the yo. And then it would bounce back to me, and I would take necesitar with mi amigo, and so on until I get to the bottom of what I see on that list. Does that make sense to you guys? Or do you have a question about how that will work?
Sí, no.
Make sense? So you're going to
Yeah.
bounce back and forth, right? Bounce back and forth, right? One to the other to the other. Okay. And you'll get that exact. You don't have to memorize anything. You're going to see all those once you get into your groups. A ver. 4. Let me make sure I've got 2 people in each. Ooh, okay. One of you has to have a group of 3. I am sorry. One of you will have a group of 3 because we have an uneven number of people. But okay, make sure you hit the join button, and then I'll be able to send the list to you. Here we go. We're counting down. Five-minute mark. We'll give everybody time to come back. Lest you doubt me, I do time these things. For some people, 5 minutes to practice goes by like that. For some people, it's like, oh my gosh, we only got to number 3. And that's normal because everybody works at their own pace. So it's all good. Bien. Okay.
Join
Go-
Zoom.
¿Cómo fue? How'd it go?
Okay. Bien.
It's
Bien.
work. Bien.
Más o
Bien.
menos, más o menos bien.
Más o menos. Okay. Más o menos is a good answer. We're going to fill in what they should have sounded like so that you see. Okay. I'm going to hope I have enough caffeine to get all that typing. You know, for some reason with a laptop, my fingers go all in the wrong place. I have no idea why, but they do. Feels tiny to me. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're missing. Nos faltan 2 personas. We're missing a couple folks, but they'll be back soon. Should be back really fast. Okay. Aquí vienen. Here they come. Okay. Now, if this felt like it was it felt a little rocky, normal, muy normal, very, very normal to feel that feel a little bit of rocky. You need to hear a lot of input. One of the things I will do for you this week is I will find a video where you won't understand 100% of it, but you'll hear like 1 or 2 of these AR verbs repeated a lot because the way you'll get used to it is from hearing it used.
Okay.
I mean, it takes time. So paciencia, patience. Okay, let's put share screen on and I'm going to show you what they should sound like. Pueden ver. Can you see my white screen with all the verbs? See?
Yes.
Sí.
Bien, okay. So what usar yo? Uso.
Eso.
So,
I use. I'm using. That's what it means, right? I use, I'm using, something like that. You know, I will use very soon. Okay. Necesitar mi amigo becomes necesita. Necesita. And it means my friend my friend needs. Okay, my friend, because we don't say my friend is needing. No, we don't say that. We just don't. And somebody says, why not? And you go, I don't know. We just don't, right? Comprar, nosotros. Compramos. 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 We punch the a somewhat. Compramos, right? Compramos. And you're going to notice that we generally, in most cases, punch the second to last syllable more. Uso. Necesita. Compramos. That's just the way it goes
Necesita.
for most of these. Compramos. We're
Compramos.
buying or we buy, right?
Okay.
If I want to talk about a general habit, compramos cereal para los niños. We buy cereal for the kids because that's what we usually do, right? It might mean right now or what we usually do. Pagar ustedes becomes pagan. 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 There we go. Pagan. Pagan. Okay. You guys are paying or you pay, right? Those are the meanings. Viajar tú, viajas. Viajas. You are traveling or you travel. Bien. Llegar. Yo. And this we. Stop popping up there. Here we go. Llego.
I arrive.
Yeah, I'm arriving.
All right.
I arrive. I get to a place, right? A place. Bien. Vale. Y por fin, escuchar mi amiga, escucha.
Escucha.
Oh, my friend listens to,
Escucha.
or we might express it as she is listening to, right? See? Eso es. Make sense? Bien?
Mhm.
Bien? Okay, vale. ¿Alguna pregunta? Some question about that. Anything there from whether it's how to pronounce it or what does it mean? If you have a, and you'll get this exact thing. You're going to get the whole file in the email afterwards. So don't feel you have to copy it or take a picture because you'll have it on your computer forever and ever, however long you want it. Bien?
Well, I do have a question.
Sí, sí.
So if you have something like uso, that means I am, and
I missed.
vieja, that means she is or something. But if the subject is my friend, like you have there, mi amiga,
Mhm.
you have to put that in, right? Escucha, but you have to put in mi
Oh, do you
amiga.
need to put the mi amiga in?
Yeah, because yeah.
You may or may not. Oh, all right. You definitely will need to put the mi amiga in
Okay.
if the person has no context or I need to differentiate. Okay, por ejemplo, for example, I'm going to try to think of an example that is short that you can follow. In the context of a conversation, because of whatever I said one sentence before, or two sentences before, you may already know what I'm talking about. So it's understood. And when it is understood, people will typically drop the mi amiga. Okay, I'll give you an example. Mi amiga Wendy, mi amiga se llama Wendy. Mi amiga va al supermercado
Mhm.
y su supermercado favorita es Safeway. Wendy compra la carne en Safeway. Compra, and I don't include the ella. Compra los legumbres en Safeway. Compra la leche en Safeway. Siempre paga con una tarjeta de débito. Paga con tarjeta. And see, when I say she's paying, by that time, you already know I've been talking about Wendy.
Mhm.
So they're not going to keep saying Wendy. They're not even going to keep saying she. They're just going to use that verb hanging out all by itself. Yeah, because from the context, hey, if you're listening to me that I'm talking about Wendy, you know I'm talking about her. But now if I change the subject around, I may have to insert something. So let's change it up. Mis hijos caminan al supermercado. Mis hijos caminan al supermercado. ¿Comprenden? Caminan al supermercado. Mi hijo compra jugo de naranja, pero mi hija toma jugo de manzana.
Mhm.
Okay.
Find the apple.
Pagan con dinero en efectivo. And I won't even bother to say they pay because I do pagan. You know, now I'm talking about the two of them that I've switched to that. But if I talk about what he does and what she does, yes, you're right. Sí, Tomás, I may need to insert a human being to make that clear. But if the subject does not change from sentence 1, 2, 3, if I'm talking about the same person, they'll dump it, which to us sounds disjointed. I could say Wendy goes to Safeway She buys her veggies there. She buys, and I have to say the she in English, don't I?
Mhm.
Yeah. But once I've established it in sentence 1 and 2, if I'm keeping talking about the same person, forget it. Don't need anymore. Yeah. See?
Yeah, gracias.
Yeah. So from that perspective, if you're paying attention to, does your mind ever drift when your friend talks? Oh my God, even worse when your spouse talks to you and your mind starts to drift. Have you ever turned? You don't mean to tune them out, but that happens. Yeah. And then it's embarrassing. Oh my God, who were you talking about? Yeah, it's that. So yes, it is common, and it is even common to drop the word usted. Oh, I'm going to show you, Tomas. Here's what happens. Somebody meets you, you got a driver meeting you, like you got a nice, super great, hotel set up for work. And a driver meets you and he's got his little sign with your name on it. Ooh, you get in the car, el taxi. Tomamos el taxi. Let's take the taxi, honey. And we get in, right? And, he may say, sí, ¿cómo están ustedes? How are you guys? ¿Cómo están ustedes? ¿Dónde está? ¿A dónde van? ¿A dónde van? Where are you guys going? And he'll just say, van, you're going. He won't say the ustedes again, because he started with, ¿Cómo están ustedes? How are you guys? But he may even drop that. If he's looking you straight at the eyeball and there's you and your spouse, he may just say, ¿Cómo están? How are you guys? And he'll completely drop the word ustedes. Because, well, if I'm looking at you, don't you think I'm talking to you? It happens. And they're not going to say, oh, pobre americano, poor American person. I will include all these little pronouns just for you. Because they're not thinking that way. Because they're just not. They don't mean to be mean. They're going to do whatever their normal habit is, sadly. Yeah. And it's our, oh my God. And then it's like, we're in the hot seat to adjust. Yeah. Yeah. But that's life. Okay. Así es. So it is. Okay. These are all very good questions. Let's take a look at the last tail end of these last verbs and shout out an answer. Ayudar. I want to say we're helping. ¿Cómo se dice? How do you say it? ¿Cómo se dice? We're helping.
Ayudamos.
Ayudamos.
Perfecto. Perfecto. Ayudamos. We're helping. Bien, bien, bien. Oh, ¿cómo se dice? Los turistas, they're waiting.
Esperan.
Esperan.
Esperan. Esperan. They're
Esperan.
waiting. They're meaning the tourists, right? Oh,
Yes.
you're walking.
And
Camina.
Camina.
Mina.
Camina.
Camina.
Mina.
You're walking or you walk. See? Oh, you guys are working. Oh, I see you guys are hard at work.
Trabajan.
Trabajar. Trabajan.
Trabajan. This one's harder because,
Trabajan.
it's
Yeah.
a longer verb.
Yeah.
Trabajan. Trabajan. So look at what happens when I get rid of this AR, guys. I've got 3 syllables. T-R-A-B-A-J. And now I need to plug in something with a vowel. And because it's a more than one person, it gets a vowel and an N, a vowel and an N. Trabajan. And the ba is the part that gets the punch. The punch, the stress generally comes on the second to last, not the last syllable, the second to last syllable. Trabajan, trabajan, trabajan. So this is pronounced and it's a multi-syllable word. So yes, it is tough. Trabajan, trabajan, right? You all, it's like saying, oh, in English, how do you know if you is talking to one person or a bunch? You know it from context. Yeah. They might say you all, but they might not. or they might say you guys, or they just say you are working, right? Y por fin, finally, oh, I'm studying.
Estudio.
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 And notice,
Estudio.
this is what gets the punch.
Estudio.
Estudio. Estudio.
Estudio. Estudio.
Estudio. Right?
Estudio. Estudio.
I'm studying.
Estudio.
Bien.
Studio.
Okay, vale. You're going to get this whole file.
Okay.
So you can check it out again. And wow, if you don't need to look at this again, Mensa for you. You're in the Mensa Hall of Fame. I'm glad that you're that smart, because I'm not. Because when I dabble with another thing, whether it's German or French or whatever, I need to practice over and over and over again, because I'm not Mensa, guys. Yeah. No es así. Okay. So now, bien. Bueno. Otra pregunta. Another question. Any other little question that you've got before I move on to something real quick as a preview, or no?
I have a dumb question.
It's not a dumb
Hi.
question, Tomas.
Yeah, no, sometimes they're dumb questions. So the como, like I'm eating, como, or the word how, the question how. Is there a big difference in pronunciation?
Oh, es buena pregunta. Wow, actually, that is a really, really good
Good
question. That's an excellent question. Como, the word como, how. There is no difference whatsoever in the pronunciation of como, the verb, meaning I'm eating, como, and como, meaning how. There is no difference at all. Here's where you will see, but never hear a difference. Yeah. See, you think these are dumb questions, but they're
Pero
not,
no,
because honestly, they are not dumb questions. Okay, so here's the thing. If I were teaching you 5 days a week, I would be stricter about these things, which are called written rules, because yeah, you have to do the writing element. But as somebody who's learning to speak it, you kind of need to be conversant with these, but or have an idea, but you're not writing thing. You're not going to write term papers in Spanish. Come on. All right. Como, this word is pronounced exactly the same as this word, como. They're pronounced exactly the same. Como, exactly the same. Crap. How do I know it's what it means? Becomes a question. Well, you know from context, right? You just know from the way it is used in the sentence. Okay. But how you know if you see it written is that this word como, interrogatives always have a question, or excuse me, have an accent mark on them. All interrogative words, all question words, the who, what, when, where, why words all get an accent mark. They all, as they say, carry a question mark. So there is no difference in how those two words sound, but you know in how they're used. So, por ejemplo, ¿cómo pagas? ¿Cómo pagas? How are you paying? Meaning they want to know the method of payment. ¿Cómo pagas? And it doesn't mean I eat, you're paying, right? Because of the context in which it's due. But como pan tostado con mantequilla. I eat toast with butter. Now you know that como is meaning I'm eating this thing because I'm describing a thing that you eat, pan, bread. It's all the game of context, right? But our interrogative words, quién, who, and the plural version, quiénes, whose, not whose coat is this, but the who's of Whoville, the Dr. Seuss kind of who's. Okay. Quién, donde, they all carry question marks, right? Where, the como, of course, is how. Oui. Por qué, why, right? Que, what? And this funny word, cuál. or
Cuáles.
the plural form it has,
Cuáles.
cuáles, which mean which technically, but they're sometimes used in the context where we in English might say what. So that kind of that's kind of a into the weeds. When? Cuando?
No.
Who, what, when, where, why? Yeah. Oh, but we also have some extra ones like cuánto, right?
Mhm.
How much? Or a plural
Cuesta.
form, cuántos, which means how many. Yeah, count up, right? Cuánto cuesta, how much does it cost? But cuántos hay, how many are there in this package? Yeah, cuántos hay. So those are my interrogative words. So next week, we will start to fold in more of these interrogative words so that you start to see some interrogatives used in combination with some of these verbs, just so you start to get used to it. Yang, I'm going to send you, and I need to hunt for just the right video. I'm going to hunt for a little video that has it's going to be a dumb story. It's gonna, I mean, it is, you'll say to yourself, what a dumb story this is, but it's dumb because we need to pare it down to the most elementary elements. Yeah, we need to pare it down to the bare necessities so that you get repetitions. That's what you need with these verbs. You need to hear it being used the same over and over. This is normal. It is normal to learn it that way, even though it's going to sound like, well, this is a kiddie story. It is, but that's how we learn that stuff, right? Your parents do not teach you how to speak by saying, okay, kid, now we're going to do a quadratic equation and let's talk about the physics of that. No one does that. You learn language as simple things. So you're going to have a simple video, but that's okay. You'll have that. And what I want you to start prepping for is not the AR verbs, but the ER and IR verbs. And you're going to get this basic chart again. So you're going to go back to the same chapter that the AR verbs were in, and I believe it starts at 98, 98. En la página, on page, en la página 98. On 98 through to the very end of the chapter, they're going to talk about ER verbs. And I want you to really focus on that and focus on what the infinitives mean, what the basic not conjugated verb forms mean. They're going to give them all to you in blue. And get used to this chart. But see, you're going to see this chart. So the preview, guys, that I'm going to leave you with at the tail end of the lesson is this. And the first preview is, wow, the yo verbs all get the same ending. So yay, no brainer. But for ER and IR verbs, they're going to share a lot of their forms. They're going to share a lot of the same forms. Okay. Where they're going to break away and do different stuff that is different ER and different IR are in the forms to talk about nosotros, we. That's where they really break away. Okay, they break away for vosotros, but remember, vosotros means you guys, buddies, and they only use it in Spain, so we're not going to focus on that. So yes, they do break away, but the one you need to know that's practical for you guys is that they'll split. They'll go their own separate ways when they come to nosotros. But look at what's going to happen. ER and IR verbs are going to have a lot of repetitions of this vowel the vowel E. Or in español, see? ES, but look, S at the end. But just the naked vowel hanging out there, right? Hemos, we still have mos, but it's hemos, not amos. And then IR verbs, it's going to be hemos, not amos, not hemos, but hemos. And then they're going to go back to sharing for the ellos, ellas, ustedes. But see, ER and IR verbs are going to share that vowel lots of repetitions of the vowel and then they go their own way. So oddly, there is for regular verbs an odd kind of pattern to follow. Okay, bien. We good?
Bien. Ujú,
Okay.
Bien.
We're going to practice those ER and IR. We'll review the ARs, but we're going to practice ER and IRs. And I'll give you lots of videos to hear lots of these again from a different person, because it always helps to hear a different way of explaining it and different people speaking it. It always helps to get that ingrained in your brain. ¿Está bien?
Bien.
Bien.
Todo
Sí,
bien. Fantástico. Bien. I'm going to give one plug to Scottsdale because of their many classes. Registration is ongoing for a few weeks now for spring semester, which that's going to run April and May, April to the end of May. So basically up till Memorial Day. Yeah. For any classes that you are interested in taking. And for people who might be wondering, when people finish with this class, which is called step 1, the one to look for if you want to keep going is step 2. We try to make that obvious because there are a whole bunch of things listed under Spanish, but the one that says Spanish for beginners, step 2, that's the one that if people want to keep going after this class, they sign up for the step 2. Okay. Because my other levels get higher up and kind of a little bit harder. Okay. Bien.
Bien.
Magnífico.
Bien.
Okay. Todo bien. Nos vemos
Magnífico.
el martes. I'll see you guys. Vemos is a verb. It's an ER verb. Yay. Ver. To
Yeah.
see.
See you.
Ver. You
Vemos.
take off the ER, you just got the V left. That's all you got, baby. It's nos vemos. We'll see each other. Nos vemos el martes. Bien. Hasta luego.